Hi, friends. I'm Karen, and this is the Family Food for Moms podcast. We're talking about inspiration for family cooking and dining. Today, we're going to be talking about Italian comfort foods, easy meals that you can make when you need something comforting. But before we get there, today is our 100th episode. So, I'm going to be giving away 2 of our recipe books, the Elegant Easy Appetizers. The first 2 people to email me will be receiving their recipe books. If you live in the continental United States, then we'll be able to mail you a print version of the cookbook. If you live anywhere else in the world, then I'll send you the PDF version, the digital version, as we can't ship to there. My email address is karen@familyfoodformoms.com. That's Karen, Karyn, at familyfoodformoms.com. So email me if you'd like a free copy of the Elegant Easy Appetizers recipe book. First 2 people whose emails I receive will get those. So let's talk about Italian comfort food. Of course, pizza, pasta, what could be more comforting? So first, let's talk about spaghetti. Spaghetti is one of the easiest things to cook. You can do other pasta too if you prefer, like penne, tagliatelle. My favorite is definitely spaghetti. And it's really important that you get a good quality spaghetti. The general one in the grocery store, especially the cheaper one, is going to not be as tasty, especially if the spaghetti is the main part of your meal. You want to spend a little more. So look for the whitest spaghetti, the one that is very white means it's been aged longer, it'll have more flavor and just generally better quality. So you cook your spaghetti. So when you heat your water, bring it to the boil and then add a little bit of coconut oil or olive oil to the water and then add some salt. Like Joe Bastianich says, salt like the ocean. So you add your salt and your oil and then you add your spaghetti. You can either break them up if you like, or if you're a true Italian, just put them in and mix them around as soon as they get soft so they don't stick together. It's useful to have one of those spaghetti spoons with the spikes to mix the spaghetti around. So cook it until you're happy with the way it tastes and then drain it. And then it's great to immediately add a little olive oil and a little salt and possibly even some Parmesan cheese. If you add it soon after draining the water, then it sticks well to the pasta and it makes it really nice and flavorful. So for the first easy option, we're going to do spaghetti with olive oil and garlic. There's a fancy name, something like spaghetti aglio e olio. I don't know how to say it. But basically, it's the spaghetti or the pasta with a bit of garlic, a bit of olive oil, maybe some chili flakes or herbs like fresh parsley. So it's very easy and quick to make. You also need to make sure your olive oil is good quality and is going to taste good. So then you can add your olive oil, as I said, as soon as the pasta is finished cooking. Then you're going to cook up a little bit of garlic. It shouldn't get overly brown or crispy, but just enough to soften so it's see through. You can add your fresh parsley for a quick stir around if you want to, and then a little bit of chili flakes, perhaps if you like chili, and then maybe put a bit of butter in there. If you don't want to use butter, then the olive oil is great. And then you add that into your pasta and you mix it up. As I said, you can add a tiny bit of Parmigiano Reggiano or Parmesan cheese, and that gives a wonderful flavor to your spaghetti. So that's an easy one to do. And then the next step up would be pasta al pomodoro, which means the pasta sauce, the tomato sauce. Now, if you really want to make your sauce rich, you can add some herbs, some fresh vegetables like grated zucchini, grated carrot to your sauce, or if you're making it from scratch. Otherwise, just use a bottle of pomodoro, like tomato puree, they call it. Um, and you can even add some with onions, like tomato and onions, or tomato and basil sauce, anything that's similar. Fresh basil leaves are amazing with this. Again, just add them into your sauce and cook it a bit longer. So you want your sauce to let the flavors kind of meld. So again, you can start with a little bit of garlic in the pan, and then add your tomato sauce and add whatever you're going to add, whether it's the grated zucchini or the basil, bit of parmesan perhaps. And then when the sauce tastes good, it's important that you taste the sauce first. Add a bit of salt, pepper if you need to. Add a tiny bit of butter at the end for creaminess. But keep tasting your sauce and think about what you need to add. Do you need a little bit more basil? Do you need a little bit more salt, etc.? When it tastes good, then you mix it into your pasta. So make the pasta in the same way, or the spaghetti in the same way as for the previous one, and flavor it with the olive oil and salt and parmesan cheese as soon as it's been drained. And then you mix in your sauce. Then the third way that's easy with spaghetti or pasta is to use some kind of cheese sauce. So an easy cheese sauce or a mushroom sauce are great with pasta. Let's first do the mushroom sauce. I like to just slice up the mushrooms and then season them with salt, a little onion powder, and a tiny bit of nutmeg to bring out the mushroom flavor. And then you want to cook them up in the pan with a lid over them so that they cook well. And when they're soft, then you pour in about a cup of cream. And then you let that simmer for a little bit. You could add a tiny bit of potato starch if you want to thicken it, or a tiny bit of flour, but not too much because it'll thicken very fast. And then when that's ready, you mix it with the pasta that's already been seasoned in the same way as previously. A cheese sauce, you would use some butter and flour as your base, equal quantities, say a tablespoon of each. Then you mix in half a cup of milk and you whisk until it thickens, and then add your favorite cheese, whether it's a Swiss cheese like Emmentaler or some Parmigiano Reggiano is great. You don't need a lot. Add some salt, and that makes your simple cheese sauce that you can then mix with your pasta. And this one's a great one to add some vegetables to. So some stir-fried zucchini, some cooked butternut. It'll go great with those, with that cheese sauce and the pasta. Then, of course, the margherita pizza. If you want to make it Italian style, all it needs is the tomato and cheese on top with some herbs like basil. So you can use a store-bought base, you can use store-bought dough, or you can make your own dough. It's quite easy, just similar to bread dough. Basically need your flour, your yeast mixture with a little bit of honey in there, teaspoon of salt to, say, 4 cups of flour, and then a bit of butter mixed in there or olive oil to make your dough. So use any kind of dough that you usually use for your bread machine. Once you've got your dough, you can roll out the crust and pre-bake the crust. It helps to make it crispy before you add anything else, slightly crispy. Then you can add your tomato puree or tomato paste or whatever you like on top. And then perhaps some garlic, some basil leaves, and then slice your mozzarella. It's best to use a really white mozzarella and do circles around the pizza, or you could just do the grated mozzarella as usual. And you can even put some fresh tomato slices on there, add a bit of salt and oregano on top, and bake it. And that'll be delicious. Then bruschetta is also a very easy Italian comfort food. You take a baguette or a French loaf, and then you add some butter and garlic and pre-cook them, bake them in the oven. Or you could fry them in a pan if you don't have too many. And then once you've got your nice crispy toast that's flavored with butter and garlic, then you add your toppings. You can add things like Italian cheese that you enjoy, or any cheese, can be a soft or a hard cheese. You could add salami or prosciutto, that Italian meat that's been cured. Those are all fabulous. Of course, you can add things like tomatoes, anything that you enjoy on top of your toasty bruschetta. This works great as an appetizer for an event or a party or dinner with friends. Then another classic Italian comfort food is minestrone soup. This is hearty and delicious. So you want to use your vegetables to cook them up at the beginning. So you're going to do some onions, some carrots, some celery, the usual base for a soup. And you're going to cook those in a bit of oil until they're softened, about 5 minutes. Then you're going to add in a bit of garlic and maybe some zucchini. Those take a little bit less time to cook, so you add them in second. So stir in some garlic, some finely chopped or grated zucchini, and then you're going to pour in your broth and your tomatoes. So you can pour in the diced tomatoes with their juice included, and some broth like chicken broth or beef broth or even vegetable broth. You can add a few herbs. They can be dried or fresh, so oregano, basil, thyme, a bit of salt and pepper. So you want your soup to have that flavorful base and then have the tomatoes with perhaps some other vegetables in there. So you're going to simmer that, bring it to almost boil, and then reduce it. So you simmer it for about 15 minutes, and then you can add in from a tin or cooked beans or even pasta if you like that. Simmer that a little bit until the pasta or vegetables are tender and they've assimilated the flavor. You can also stir in spinach if you like at the end, and then you season a bit more salt, pepper, or herbs as needed. And it's nice to top with a little bit of parmesan and fresh herbs when you serve it. So the important part is to let it simmer and let the flavors develop, and then to taste as you go and make sure the base, the tomato base, tastes good before you add the vegetables and beans, and then afterwards as well. Another fun comfort food is eggplant parmesan. So this is basically slices of eggplant or brinjal, sometimes called. And if you don't really like eggplant, like some of my family, then you can do it with large zucchini. So you want big slices that are quite thick, like 1/2 inch thick. You're going to make your slices, cut up your slices of eggplant or zucchini, and then you're going to crisp it up. So first you're going to let the bitterness and the liquid drain out of the eggplant a little bit. This is an important step. So once they're sliced, you can sprinkle both sides with salt and lay them on a tray or on paper towels, and then let them sit for about 45 minutes to draw out the moisture. And then you pat them dry with paper towels. Then you can cook them either in a pan with olive oil or coconut oil. You fry them in batches on both sides, about 2 to 3 minutes per side till they're a little crispy. Or you can brush them with olive oil and bake them in the oven, 400 Fahrenheit, 200 Celsius for about 20 minutes. And you flip them halfway through. They'll also be lightly golden. So then you can cook the sauce. So in a saucepan, you heat your oil and then you add onion or garlic. Maybe you don't need both. And then just soften those. You add some tomatoes, oregano, or basil, salt, and pepper, and you simmer until your sauce tastes good. Then you can do this in a baking dish, or you can do individual slices with a little bit on each. Spoon some over, sprinkle some mozzarella, and then parmesan or parmigiano reggiano, and a few basil leaves. So you can do the layers of eggplant slices to make your kind of casserole for a side dish. Or, as I said, you can do individual ones, which are nice for snacks. You can put breadcrumbs on top if you want to, but basically, if you're doing the layered version, each layer will have eggplant or zucchini slices, the tomato sauce, mozzarella, and other cheese. And then you're going to bake that for about half an hour and then let it rest before serving. A couple of other comfort foods would be a tiramisu. If you want to look up how to make that, that's a fabulous Italian dessert. A risotto, which is creamy risotto rice, which you cook slowly and then you add broth and butter and Parmesan cheese as it cooks. And that's a wonderful base. You can add various things like red peppers or mushrooms that have been cooked to your risotto. And then lastly, some kind of chicken dish, chicken piccata, which is cutlets of chicken in a lemon butter sauce, which is tangy and amazing. So those are some ideas if you want to do a quick, easy Italian dish for a comfort food on a cozy fall evening, or even on a summer's day if you want some good snacks. The zucchini or the brinjal can also be used as chips. So just do the first step. Salt, drain the moisture, then the salt and oil, bake them or fry them, and then eat them like that without the sauce on top. So thanks for listening today. I hope you got a few good ideas. Have a great week, and remember to email me if you'd like a copy of Elegant Easy Appetizers. It's Karen at familyfoodformoms.com, Karen with a Y. I'll see you next time.